So, Florida State is playing. Florida, we all know that Georgia football is better than Florida football. Go Dogs, okay? So footballs are made of pigskin. Pork rinds are also made out of pigskin. Pork rinds are associated with Mexican food. Connor, what's your favorite Mexican food?
All right, so I gotta give you some respect because that was a lot harder topic. I can go easier with Mexican food because that is literally my favorite food. And I think if I had to pick one Mexican restaurant to go to here in Athens, it would be Tlac. And for those of you who have not been to Tlac yet, it is amazing. It's cheap, it's delicious, and they have a thing called queso dip. And for those of you who have never had queso dip, you need to come out from under the rock that you've been living in because queso dip is amazing. And they also have this meal called La Barca, which I've been going there for the past 3 years, and I had no idea what it was up until 2 weeks ago, and it translates to the boat. No idea why they call it the boat, but it's called the boat. And it's literally shrimp, chicken, and steak, all in one platter with rice and refried beans, covered in that magical stuff called queso dip. So that is my favorite Mexican meal ever, and it is, I think, with the total, even if you do get a side of queso dip, the total meal, I mean, depending if you get a margarita or not, but who wants that, right? So I think it's total $15 in total with a tip. So definitely check out Tlac. It's right off of Chase Street, a little up towards north of the industrial side of Athens. So definitely check out La Barca and recommend Connor. Thanks, guys. Yeah, La Barca. The boat.
Little boat.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Great. Villanova plays on Friday, 7:45 TBS. Okay. Villanova is the #1 seed. Their enrollment in school is 10,983 students. The year 983, Pope Benedict VII was Pope. He died that year. So, Pope Benedict VII, he was born in Rome. If you could go to Rome, what would you do? What would you see? And where else would you travel around Rome? What is your name? Rory. Rory, please come up.
All right. Rome. Great city, capital of Italy. You know the saying, when in Rome, right? Well, so far as Rome, I'd probably love to see like all of the relics from the former empire. You know, Colosseum, the famous aqueducts, the Aurelian Wall, the other wall that I can't remember the name of. See the see the Palatine Hill with a Pantheon sits. Other than that, there's also some like great wine country out there by Rome, so go and visit that. Have some nice wine, because it's legal, for me at least. Let's see, what else is there in Rome? Pigeons. I hate pigeons, but I would avoid them. That's the best part about Rome. You can go anywhere in Rome. You don't have to sit with the nasty pigeons. And then I'd probably go to the Vatican City and see Pope Francis do whatever he does with his day. Like, I don't know, preach and probably say some sermons and stuff. That's what I do in Rome.
Purdue's a 2 seed, they play on Friday. They just lost their big man. His name's Isaac Haas. It's a German-sounding name, Isaac Haas. I wish Dennis was here. So, anyways, he's known for being 7 foot tall. So, if you were 7 foot tall, if you were 7 foot tall, would you want to be 7 foot tall? We'll go with that. Would you want to be 7 foot tall? Stephen. Please let us know.
If I was 7 foot tall, I feel like it'd be a pretty big inconvenience because most people are not 7 foot tall. As an Asian, it's kind of, we've got Yao Ming, and then that's about it. But when he was on the basketball court, he was is known as the moving wall, okay? It's like you try to shoot a ball and your team holds hands up and everything's blocked. But 7 foot tall does make my life very inconvenient. As a freshman, I live in a dorm. That bed is not the longest bed in the world. I'd probably have like my head laying off or like half my legs off. So that would be terrible. Then I would have to walk through doorways. Some doorways are not the tallest things in the world. And I'm pretty sure I would like probably smack my head across a couple. Also, if I ever were to visit Taiwan, people in Taiwan are not the tallest. We're pretty short, and everything in there is like tiny, and I would hate that. And also, everywhere you eat, you sit on a tiny stool, unless you're in like some fancy restaurant. But everyone knows food stall has the best food. So those tiny stools are not the most compatible for 7 feet tall people. So I would hate to be 7 feet tall, to be honest.
All right, so last one. Kentucky's playing, and Kentucky's known for a lot of racehorses. So, if you owned a racehorse, what would you name it, and what would you do with the winnings? Albert, please come answer that question for me.
Hey guys. So if I owned a racehorse, I would name it Seabiscuit after the famous racehorse Seabiscuit, because that's the only racehorse name that I can come across in my head. I also saw the movie Seabiscuit, and it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. So, yeah, I would, yeah. So, yeah.
What would you do with the winnings?
I would probably buy a house or something, and then breed a bunch of horses so that I can have more horses. Name each of them Seabiscuit. A bunch of Seabiscuits in the yard, and yeah, and maybe I could have more.
So if you guys will please vote for your favorite Tabletopic speaker on the slip provided. And that is all I have. So thank you.
So now time for our third part of the meeting, which is evaluation. This is where everybody gets better. They take good criticism and bad criticism and put together to make the best. And now to call up our general evaluator, Imran.
Hi guys, I'm Imran, obviously, and this is the evaluation part. You don't really need to be a genius to figure out what we do here. So we got 4 speakers and 4 evaluators, so let's just get right to it. The first one's going to be Ella. She's going to evaluate Bonnet, so please welcome Tyler.
Oh, we switched. I'm evaluating Bonnet, and she's evaluating.
Yeah. Tyler's evaluating. Tyler.
Sorry about that.
That's only switched though.
Okay, so Bonnet, our first controversial speech of this club's history, followed by the second controversial speech. Making history today. All right, so his speech is based around the objective of researching a topic. And the objectives are to collect information about your topic from numerous sources, which we saw many, from pie charts to all those things. And then to carefully support your points and opinions with specific facts, examples, and illustrations gathered through research. So I liked how in the beginning, Bonnet introduced this controversial topic by having a variety of random pictures there that can show that terrorism isn't as bad as you might think.
introducing the idea. Although he didn't really say this point until the very end, very like explicitly, he introduced the idea into your head. It's like Inception. Like that. And that way he also didn't make it seem like very serious. So he had a very interesting tone to the speech, which is neat. Okay, so besides those illustrations, I saw that he had many statistics from pie charts, and he also had bar charts and all those statistics, and also liked how you had not just points about terrorism, but also points from international versus national, and also how these numbers can really show that the media really does play a big part in really bringing up something that's bigger than it really is, and you kind of hit it home until right at the very end, when you really just nailed it. One thing you could improve on, which I'm going to say is from Tyler's that I didn't really notice until Tyler went up, is that your vocal variety and your body language could improve. Because when Tyler came up here, he just set the tone. He came up here and just spoke and paced his speech really well. He would take a few pauses, and the room would just be like awkwardly silent, but then like also have that serious tone. And then he moved on to another point, just and continued to do that. I feel like that could help with your speech as well, by having that kind of variety. Because when you're up here, you go from one point and then quickly on to the next, and then it's just like a train. Sometimes trains can stop at some stations. Nice analogy. All right. But that was the only thing that I really saw. Also, you did slur a few words, but I think that's because of maybe you're the first speaker. The first speaker, there's some first speaker jitters. I believe in the first speaker jitters. And finally, I would say for research, based on the objectives, you really nailed it because you easily had the most supporting details of any speech I've heard at this club. Oh yeah, okay. So, and it also wasn't very congested. You didn't show like just stat after stat after stat and it was just like, okay, and it's just like math, just the example after example. They really helped with your main point, so I really liked that. So overall, I'd say you nailed the research topic speech. Thank you.
So I'm guessing now Ella's gonna evaluate. Yeah?
Serena.
Serena's?
Yeah.
Okay, so our next evaluator is Ella. She's gonna evaluate Serena. Welcome.
So Serena, that was a great speech. By the way, it was your second speech, correct? Really great, really organized. Now I'm not going to confabulate for too long because I'm like, thank you. I want to get you right down to your points and what you did great, what you could improve on, and also what you did great again. That sandwich that we do. So first off, I love that you chose to think outside of the box with your speech. It wasn't very not necessarily factual, but it wasn't really like a stereotypical tell a story, lay down the facts like a historical figure. It was more what you learned during your impact trip. So it made it very interesting, very, very intriguing. I thought it was very professional, it was very organized. You researched it thoroughly. I saw the paper, it looked like you had I saw a little bit of the outline, like you had all the touches. And even when you were sitting up here and you were talking to us, it was very organized and it was very thorough. So that was great. Now, here's some things you should improve upon. Next time, you should try without the notes because you glanced at it a little bit, but you didn't necessarily need it too much. And I felt like whenever you glanced at it, it took away. It was like kind of a hiccup. You would pause a little, and so it affected the fluidity of the speech. So next time, just throw it out. You don't need it. Just go based off of your slides. It's right there to help you with the pictures and remind you of what you're supposed to be talking about. But other than that, it was good. As far as the breakdown, you had informational, you had educational, you had personal. I really liked that it was very organized like that, and it had different aspects of what you were going to touch on during your speech. So another thing you could work on. It was great, but it felt more like a lecture than a speech. So basically what I want to tell you is a lecture is more of something to teach us, right? It's more informational, that's the primary objective of it. A speech is more of the emotional side. It's more storytelling. So you leaned a little bit on the lecture approach, do more on the storytelling approach. And the way to do that is you hit the mark with your objective perfectly. You had it was very organized, like I said, it was very factual, but it was too much at times, like it was too structured. Let it go a little, let some fluidity come in. As far as that's really what I want to tell you about. One more note as far as body language, you tended to stay over here and you looked in this area as far as eye contact. So just make sure to move around, don't forget to do that. Look at us, we want some love over here. And that's it, you did a great job, and thank you, I'll be looking forward to your next speech.
In case you guys who aren't members are wondering, at the end of every speech there's like a little section in here for the evaluator to put notes on. So I think there's 10 speeches on this one, and in the last page it kind of tells you, it's basically there to guide the evaluator, like the one person specifically evaluating you, so that they know what to look out for, and it's different based on every speech. It's yours? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, thanks. And the next one, I think Jessica's going to be evaluating Josh, so please come down the stage.
Josh, the title of your speech was My Month of March. So you already got me started off with these alliterations, and then you talk about your 3 M goals: Massa, music, and marathon. The only thing I would change about that title is to talk about your 4 M's, and the 4th one would be manual, because you just completed the 10th speech in your manual. And that's something that a lot of people would never do. To me, that's probably harder than complete a marathon. So I definitely think that should be applauded.
It's hard, man.
I get 10 seconds back. It's just really just a pleasure to be able to evaluate you, because I saw your first speech, your second speech, and your third speech, and now I'm up evaluating your 10th speech. So I'm going to go over time because he needs to hear how wonderful what he just did was. I'm getting goosebumps. Okay. I'm actually going to give you feedback on just how I've seen you grow from your first speech to now, and I'm also obviously going to give you feedback for your 10th speech. First objective for this speech was to inspire, and I felt inspired because 2 of the goals you talked about, marathon and Massa, are things that I can relate to. So I can clearly relate in my undergrad years, 3 years ago, when I was running for office or president of this, and I had no idea that I could be a leader and all that, and I was doubting myself, and I didn't know what to do, and I could relate to just have the courage. Just have the courage to try. And then hearing you do that, and so I can say that the fact that you have the courage to try, that's just going to be enough to get you where to get. The fact that you're bold enough to put yourself out there. Then I had the audacity to try to dream that I would run a 5K. I've never ran a day in my life except to run to get some free food. So when I had the crazy goal to run a 5K, and I'm like, Jess, what did you get yourself into? This finish line is just so far. And when I crossed that finish line, I did not just cross the finish line. I ran across that finish line, and I was proud. So the fact that you even ran a marathon, with me, is amazing, because even I have running a marathon on my list. And so the fact that you finished a marathon, that just makes it a little bit more realistic for me. So thank you. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it'll happen sooner than I think it will, probably. Some feedback that I have for you in terms of your second objective was to tell stories and dramatize. I felt that your stories were very good, but I felt like you could have dramatized them a little bit more. So you're talking about hanging out with hippies. Yeah, dude, totally. Just channel this Austin Powers vibe. Just make us feel that we're surrounded by hippies. That's different from the vibe we get here. And you're talking about running a marathon. Running a marathon. You talked about how you're running, and then you get to the 22nd mile, and you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna be. Oh. So maybe just acting that out would just again put us in that situation. I loved how you said you knew that you weren't ready and you still did that, because that's probably what's gonna happen to me when I walk this marathon. So it would allow me to have seen you do it, so I could have put myself in that situation. Just to conclude, one thing that I see you do all the time is use notes. I know you talked about how you felt like you needed them. I really don't think you need them. I think that your content is just so good to the point that you don't need notes. I think it's just something you use to make yourself feel comfortable. I don't get to see you look at me and say, I ran a marathon. I didn't get to see you look at me and say, I walked across the finish line. Like, that body language and eye contact is something that we all need to see from you. And so I think you have it in you, you're just don't use notes. So I would say make it your fifth M goal for your next speech. Even if you don't think you know what you're talking about, try not to use notes and just see if you're capable of doing it. And once you feel capable of doing it, then I think you'll be more comfortable. So that's the end of my absurdly long evaluation/speech. Thank you.
Well, that was a really good evaluation. I'd hate to follow that up. But Zach's going to try. Yeah. So here's Zach evaluating Tyler Burnett.
Try.
All right. Let's see. So, you chose gun control. I heard from Bonaday before the meeting started that you have gun control, he had terrorism. I was not looking forward to this meeting at all. And you chose gun control. Fun. I have to evaluate this now. I didn't choose to do that. So, let's get out the nitty-gritty out of the way before I actually focus on what I think you did really well in this speech and what I think you could have improved on. One thing that I think that you really should have done before is always make sure your slides work. This isn't a good look for you. Yeah, that's not a good look for anyone. No one looks good fidgeting around with a thing, and it's so obvious. Just make sure before the meeting, come early, do all this, and then you don't have to worry. If it's a space bar, you can use the space bar. Just make sure something works. Next, I'm glad that you didn't do the thing that I think it's you, me, and Jessica usually do, and that's walk up to a specific person and look them dead in the eye and make it awkward for one person. Because that's a good technique for, a regular speech. This is a more serious topic, and I'm glad you took this seriously. And staying right here and having control of right here is a great way to deliver everything you said, especially because there is a guarantee not everyone here shares your same opinion. And when you do this, you present it in a clear, concise way, instead of doing all this flair like you're joking around like the subject. But a thing that I absolutely hate is when someone takes up sheets of paper onto the stage. The reason why I hate it is not because it takes away from your speech. Because honestly, you can use paper and you can use note cards for your speech very effectively. But when you are excited or you are nervous, your handshakes are unnoticeable. But it reverberates through the paper and it was so obvious. At least to me. Now, what you did great. You had an amazing speech because you opened it with have an open mind. And you gave this speech saying that, and you ended that speech saying, I get it, it's going to be controversial, you probably won't agree with me after I say it, but you've said it. Just forget about the biases, make your own opinion. And that's what we're in college to do. And you did that very well, just presenting that. Of course, then you went into it. And the problem with it was
in your speech, I didn't see a clear purpose. And I'm glad Jessica asked that question in the Q&A that said, so what is the proposed solution? Because I was expecting a solution out of you for the gun control, but in the end it was not, the speech wasn't about proposing a solution. It's saying that overall taking away guns is not going to solve the situation. In fact, it may make it even worse. And the way you handled those questions, the way you were even-tempered, the way you weren't aggressive with your arguments, but you were logical, might not have swayed the people in the audience, but it definitely got their ears open. Thank you.
Evaluators, I think all four of you guys did a really good job. Those are good evaluations. They're a pleasure to listen to. I hope the speakers got a lot out of it too. Yeah. What was that?
30 seconds? It was 20 over 30. 20 over 30.
Ryan, nice topics. Where's he at? Oh, there you are. I like how they all relate to basketball, obviously, so much. Those nice speakers. There was a lot of pictures. I like that. I think they were all entertaining speeches, and then there was some controversy, which is cool, but we handled it with a lot of